Announcements, none. Papers have been laid. Question.
Leader of Opposition, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, my question is addressed to the Honourable Prime Minister. Whether in regard to the alleged cases of torture involving police officers which have surfaced, he will, for the benefit of the House, obtain information as to whether the Independent Police Complaints Commission has the ability to shoulder its responsibilities in a timely and effective manner.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I refer the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to my reply to his PNQ at our sitting of 15th of June 2022, in particular to what I stated regarding the Independent Police Complaints Commission. In fact, I did state that government acted responsibly by putting in place the necessary mechanism to investigate into complaints made against police officers in the discharge of their functions, other than complaints of acts of corruption or money laundering offences. The IPCC is empowered through the Independent Police Complaint Commission Act, proclaimed in April 2018, to, inter alia, investigate into any complaint made by any person or on his behalf against any act, conduct, or omission of a police officer in the discharge of his functions. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I also stated in my reply to the PNQ, the Commissioner of Police did inform that 5 cases of the alleged torture by police officers have been reported, and accordingly, the cases have been referred to the IPCC. In addition, following a preliminary inquiry in these cases by the police, statements have been taken from 9 persons. The police has also arrested 6 police officers, and all of them have been interdicted. Out of the 5 cases referred to the IPCC, the case of Mr. KS has been recategorized as assault with aggravating circumstances by the Commission and has been referred to the Director of Public Prosecutions on 16th of June 2022. The remaining 4 cases are under investigation. I am informed that the IPCC has set a time frame of 3 months to complete the investigation. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed by the IPCC that on 16th of June 2022, the police has forwarded a DVD containing 7 video clips, inter alia, of alleged cases of torture of victims by police officers which have been in circulation on social media. I'm further informed that the IPCC is liaising with the police for additional information before starting any investigation into these cases. Mr. Speaker, sir, the IPCC has extensive powers to conduct investigations on the basis of a complaint against a police officer, gather evidence, hold hearings, and summon witnesses to attend such hearings. Investigation by the IPCC does take time to be completed before the case file is referred to the appropriate institution with their recommendations. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 2nd of December 2020, my office convened a meeting with parties concerned to look into the need to strengthen the manpower of the IPCC. Thereafter, the Ministry of Public Service, Administrative and Institutional Reforms was approached to carry out a manpower assessment exercise at the IPCC. The terms of reference for the manpower assessment exercise were to A, determine whether the existing human resources match the prevailing workload and have the right qualifications, skills, and competencies to perform at the IPCC. B, assess whether the number of officers in the technical grade are fully utilized at the level they were expected to operate in terms of service delivery, allocation of duties and responsibilities. And C, come up with appropriate recommendations in the light of the findings. Following the manpower assessment report, the staffing position was reinforced through the recruitment of 1 additional investigator, 1 additional senior inquiring officer, and 1 additional management support officer, seconded by the Prime Minister's office. Mr. Speaker, sir, further to the recommendations of the manpower assessment report, an implementation committee was set up under the chair of my office and comprising representatives of the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, the Ministry of Information, Technology, Communication and Innovation, and the Ministry of Public Service, Administrative and Institutional Reforms to assist the IPCC with a view to ensuring effective implementation of the recommendations. The committee has met on 2 occasions, in February and June 2022, so far. And the following additional measures were proposed. 1, to implement a revised structure to better manage the cases. 2, to proceed with the recruitment of additional staff as required. And 3, to set up an online system of registering complaints, which is now operational. The IPCC informed during the 2nd Implementation Committee meeting that the staffing position as at 6th of June 2022, that is 3 investigators, 3 senior inquiring officers, and supporting staff is adequate to effectively deliver on its mandate. As at date, the staffing position stands at 23. This includes 3 investigators and 3 senior inquiring officers who are employed on a contract basis as required by law. Following a further assessment and in order to expedite investigations, the IPCC has, on 17th of June 2022, made a request for additional staff as follows: 1 senior investigator, 1 investigator, and 1 senior inquiring officer. The request has been examined and is being favorably considered. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to forcefully state once again that my government will not tolerate any act of torture or violation of any human rights. We need to trust our institutions, in this case the IPCC, which is independent by law, to organize itself in the best possible ways to effectively deliver on its mandate. Government will provide them with the resources they require to fulfill their mission in the best interest of the nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, to conclude, I wish to make it abundantly clear that as a government, we do not interfere with the functioning of any independent institution of the Republic.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, it's not a question of interfering, it's a question of providing the means for institutions to work adequately. Just like to stress, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the case of Mr. KS dates back to 2020. So it's taken 2.5 years for the case to go to DPP. My question is this, Mr. Speaker. On the 7th of June, IPCC took over the cases of torture, the 5 cases of torture. Is the Prime Minister aware that 22 days later, that is today's date, no investigation, no interview, no questioning has been done yet, neither on Inspector Diruchuni, neither on Sergeant Ridoy, or any of these police officers? Is he aware of that fact 22 days after the IPCC took over the case?
Well, in fact, I have answered that out of the 5 cases referred to the IPCC, the case of Mr. KS has been recategorized as assault with aggravating circumstances by the Commission and has been referred to the Director of Public Prosecutions on 16th of June 2022. So
Allow the Prime Minister, Honourable Leader of Opposition.
2.5
Allow the Prime
years.
Minister to answer.
So when, well,
Allow the Prime Minister to answer first. Please go on. Prime
yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, I thought that the 5 cases have been recently referred to the IPCC. But anyway, I will need to get, look, Mr. Speaker, sir, anyway, I don't have the information with regard to each case which has been referred. Because if the Honourable Leader of the Opposition wanted to have information about a particular case, he should have given precise notice of this case. I would certainly have inquired about a particular case, when was a complaint made, and what has happened in the meantime. Now, he puts a general question, and he expects me now to, as if I am IPCC, and I have all the details with me, and I handle those cases. Come on.
Well,
so you must be precise.
Just allow the Prime Minister to finish. I'll give you a time.
Therefore, before the Prime Minister expresses his satisfaction and his refusal to give a commission of inquiry, he should take the time to inquire what is actually happening. 22 days later, forget the case, is January 2020, 22.5 years ago. 22 days after, none of these police officers have yet been interviewed by IPCC. Are you not concerned with this?
Well, Mr. Speaker,
One question
sir,
at a time.
what I am informed that the cases are being investigated into. Now, when is it that if a police officer will be required to attend the IPCC for a statement, that is not within my purview. It is for how do we conduct, maybe the honourable member is not aware, that when a complaint is made, it is not the very next day that you take a statement from the suspect. You have to gather, you have to make up a case so that when you are ready, you are able to put a case to the suspect. I think you should, you have a very able lawyer by your side. Maybe you should seek information. And you yourself, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm sure you will understand what I'm saying. So, you are talking about 22 days. What 22 days? 22 days, you have to conduct your inquiry properly so that when the case is being sent to the DPP, it is not sent back again to you.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
The case, 2.5 years later, that it went to the DPP. And this is the question that the Prime Minister's office, under which the IPCC falls under, should see that this is not yet another example of an institutional failure in Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask about these new measures. Apparently, the committee has been sitting at his level. Now, the case of torture came to light in May, at least to the general public, in May of this year, a month or so before the budget. Has he taken the trouble to find out whether there has been any increase at all on the budget of the IPCC, except not even to cater for inflation? So in fact, there is no increase in the budget of the IPCC at all, compared to last year, although he tells us now that there's a committee has been sitting since January or February to give additional resources to the IPCC.
Honorable Prime Minister.
This is not correct at all, Mr. Speaker, sir, because as I have said in my answer, there are additional manpower, namely one investigator and one one inquiring officer who has been recruited, who probably will be recruited, but the budget is there. It is included in the actual budget. But, as I stated in my answer, there's a request now for additional manpower. And the necessary, I have said, we have entertained that request favorably, and the necessary will be done at the level of the budget so that we make provision to cater for these additional requests.
Thank you.
Is that there has been no increase in the budget of the IPCC at all, apart from inflation, not even for inflation. So the Prime Minister is wrong to think that there is provision in the budget. Mr. Speaker, for additional staff. Now, and this was well known to the government, this case is from May, shows no attention has been given to this file. Mr. Speaker, is the Prime Minister aware that the IPCC, again, has no capital budget, therefore has no means to purchase its own vehicle, not even one single vehicle, for the IPCC to go and inquire into cases of serious cases of torture, murder, etc., by police officers, alleged murder at least, not a single vehicle. There are hundreds of vehicles sleeping at Caserne Centrale, and IPCC doesn't have one single vehicle, and it falls under the Prime Minister's office, so he has responsibility for this.
Allowed to answer.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, as for the first part of the question, I again maintain that the leader of the opposition is wrong. I am provided with information. You want to answer? I don't interrupt you when you ask your
1
question.
second. Allow the Prime Minister to continue.
I don't make any remark. Now you.
Come on, Prime Minister.
What is this? So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I was saying that for the financial year 2022-2023, the staff cost has been increased from 10,200,000 rupees to 11,250,000 rupees to cater for increase in salary due to PRB report 2021 and for the salary of 2 additional staff recruited in March 2022 after the manpower assessment exercise. Now, what is this? If the budget has not increased at all for recruiting the staff, what am I saying now? And he keeps on saying, no, the budget has not increased. There is no additional manpower. Now, I have said again, and I repeat, there is another request. Why is it that there is another request? You might ask, why is it in the short period of time? Why is it that there's another request? Because of those cases which have been now are going to be handled by the IPCC, in order to expedite matters precisely, that is why they have made such additional requests. And I said, government, I've already discussed with the Minister of Finance, and we are going to make appropriate provision to cater for those additional staff. Now, it is not true. I said, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have had meetings to assess the requirements of the IPCC. There are the members, they are represented, the IPCC is represented in that committee of technical people, and it is there that they then make their requirements. So whatever requirements they will have, they will be making. Of course, government will be looking at those requirements, whatever they need, and I have stated, however, how much resources they will require in order to fulfill their responsibility will be made available to them.
Has no faith in the 2 political nominees that are the spokesperson of the IPCC at the moment, Mr. Speaker. And it is clear. I'll ask the Prime Minister now, because we'll come to this point also in a year's time. It will not go away. Does the Prime Minister think, although there is no provision for the 3rd employee, that the 3 new inquiring investigating officers that he is going to recruit, if he finds them, will be sufficient to deal with the huge backlog of 1,500 cases that exist at the moment, and all the additional cases, including serious cases that are coming to the IPCC daily. Does he really tell us, will he really tell us that in 1 year's time, the IPCC, with the meager resources and no additional car, no vehicle that is giving, is that going to be sufficient? And in 1 year's time, he will not again bear full responsibility for the institutional failure at IPCC.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the cases, not all of them are of the same nature. Not all of them are of the same gravity. There are cases which are simpler. There are cases which are more complex. Now, as I say, more attention, of course, will be given to the cases which are more serious in order to see to it that matters are expedited and that the IPCC comes to a conclusion either to refer the case eventually if it has not been settled, because there are a number of cases which are in fact settled. There are a number of cases which are also frivolous, I must point out, that are baseless. Now, there are a number of cases which are referred to DPP with their recommendation. Number of cases are referred to the Public Service Commission also with their recommendation. And other cases, I believe, very few though, probably will be referred to the Attorney General for action. Now, I am informed that the IPCC is provided vehicles and drivers from a pool available at PMO. So you don't know. And let me reply to your sarcastic comment that you made with regard to members of the IPCC. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will refer to the law. First of all, those who have been appointed, I must say, they are qualified. They satisfy the criteria which the law imposes. And secondly, in 2020, there's a duty on the Prime Minister to consult the Leader of the Opposition. In 2020, the then Leader of the Opposition was consulted, Dr. Arvind Bulel.
No.
Yeah. What is...
It's not a point of order. Wait. Order. Allow the Prime Minister. Then you can take a point of order if you need to. Allow the Prime Minister to...
I don't know why they become itchy when I answer my this
Please
question.
continue, Prime Minister.
You are itchy. You can't keep quiet. Well, in 2020, a letter was addressed to the then Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Dr. Arvind Bulel, whereby I consulted him for the appointment of Mr. Falraj Servan Singh and Mr. Veeranand Ramchand. And he took note. He took note. There was no objection. No objection from him. Now, on 24th of January 2022, I consulted the actual Leader of the Opposition, because I had advised the appointment of the chairperson, Mrs. Devyani Bisundayal. The Leader of the Opposition did not reply. Yes, exactly. Not replying meaning what? You remain silent. Don't you know? Ask your colleague. Silence means consent. So there is no objection again. And now they come and say, he comes and say, well, you know, they are also appointees, so this and that. When you had the opportunity of objecting, you remain quiet, you take note. and now you're protesting.
I was addressing Prime Minister in English. I meant the two political nominees. I did not mention the chairperson. And also the Prime Minister should tell the House that never in my experience, whenever there has been an objection by the leader of the opposition, never, ever, ever has this been taken into account, and not a single change has been effected by the Prime Minister's office from all these consultations that he is making. And that is the truth, the pure truth, Mr. Speaker. Now, coming back to, I know it hurts, but that is how consultation works for the Prime Minister. Now let me ask, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Question,
Mr.
please.
Deputy Speaker, he himself, Mr. Speaker, a week ago in Committee of Supply, told this House that there are 507 ongoing investigations for assault by a police officer. 507. And he still is satisfied that the meager number of people that he's adding to the IPCC is going, Mr. Speaker, to be sufficient. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Prime Minister now, because everything, at the end of the day comes back to you.
Question, yes.
Looking at 2019 to 2020, 2021, the figures that we have, the 35% of the complaints, Northern Division, related to Terre Rouge police station. The same, Mr. Speaker, there were a number of rogue police stations, Cuepip, Flac, Trou-Fanfaron. All these, Mr. Speaker, took a large number of complaints for assault, etc., by the public. Now, he is Prime Minister of this country, Minister of Home Affairs. There is a Commissioner of Police. There is the IPCC. None of these figures rang any bells with the Prime Minister's office or with the Commissioner of Police saying that it's not possible that Terre Rouge police station accounts on its own for 35% of complaints for Northern Division, and that there should be an inquiry or changes made to the Terre Rouge police station and Trou-Fanfaron, etc., and she should wait for the 3 or 4 officers at IPCC to tell the Commissioner of Police and the Home Affairs Division what their job should be?
Question.
Yeah, again, Mr. Speaker, let me come back when the leader of the opposition is trying to justify himself. When he is consulted, he doesn't object, and also he remains quiet. It is accepted for me. And I don't go into statistics.
Order.
I don't go, look, go back to statistics. Go back when you were in government and you had a prime minister called Dr. Navin Ramgoolam.
Order,
And then,
no cross talking.
well, let me answer. Why? You've been putting questions, you've been telling a lot about Terre Rouge, this and that. I have not interrupted you. Is it because I tell the truth that you get irritated?
Answer.
No.
Order.
What do you say? I never
Order.
told the truth. How dare you say that? How dare? I leave it to you. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, 507 cases. It's not to me. As I said, there is a committee which has been looking at the resources of the IPCC. The IPCC is represented. They make their requests, and whenever they make their requests, obviously government, I will be looking at those requests, and we do attend to those requests. It is for the IPCC to determine in what way they want to organize themselves, how much staff they will require, and how much other resources they require. Now, he's talking, leader of the opposition is talking about Terre Rouge, the north, and this and that. I don't run the police. I don't give direction who is going to be posted at which police station, who is going to be in charge there. It is for the Commissioner of Police to run the police. And he's independent also. We must bear in mind. Now, let me say, Mr. Speaker, sir, cases emanating, complaints emanating from police officers who are posted, whether Terre Rouge, whether the north, for me, anywhere on the island, any police station, wherever there is any complaint, has to be attended to. Equal attention must be given. And of course, if there are officers who are themselves, instead of maintaining law and order and going against the law, the Commissioner of Police assumes his responsibility and will take necessary action. And obviously, as I say, we are proud that we have put in place an independent organization which did not exist under the government where the Honorable Leader of the Opposition was a member, a front bench member, in fact. So we have put it into place. Of course, number of cases, I understand there are cases that take some time. Of course, we'll need to see how we can expedite matters, and it is not only for the IPCC. Other institutions also, at the level of police, whenever there are inquiries, we know that there are cases that takes time, and we all want to see a conclusion of a case so that any action that has to be taken has to be taken. So that is why I say we are progressing. We are, in fact, giving the opportunity for those people who are victimized to be able to seek a remedy.
Last question, short time is done.
Deputy Speaker, thank you for the politely telling me it's my last question. That doesn't happen often. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Honourable Prime Minister where it is not he who has appointed the head of CID under contract. So to say that this has nothing to do with the police, it doesn't hold water. I'd like to ask the Prime Minister now on serious issues concerning changes to the law. You see, in the UK, the equivalent of IPCC has the power of arrest. Therefore, it is feared by police officers. It is taken seriously. Here in Mauritius, the power of arrest has been expressly excluded from the authority of the IPCC. That is a major flaw. The second flaw is that, Mr. Speaker, the IPCC can only, except for death, cases of death, can only initiate an inquiry after a complaint. There may not be, some of these videos, there is no complaint. Just a video, evidence has come forward. And the third thing, Mr. Speaker, even the police, Mr. Speaker, can only refer cases to the IPCC when a complaint has been made. So there are serious changes to the law, not only to the staffing, to the vehicles, etc., but to the law, which will give additional power to the IPCC for it to do its job, and so that this whole issue of police torture and police violence, Mr. Speaker, is severely reduced, if not completely curtailed.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, sir, the organization in the United Kingdom is somehow different from what obtains in Mauritius. In the United Kingdom, we have the Independent Office for Police Conduct. Now, they categorize complaints into mainly three categories. One, which is investigated by themselves as an institution. The other one, they direct the police to carry out investigation under their control, which is not the case here. Here, the police has no right to investigate upon the doings of a police officer. It has to be referred to the IPCC. And then they have another third category where they just will instruct the police to deal with it themselves. So it is not the same law, the same provisions that apply in Mauritius as opposed to the UK. Now, talking about change the law, well, as if we know we have to give this and that, it reminds me of what has been said by some members of the opposition recently. You know, when talking about police, about torture, they were making hue and cry about why is it that we are not amending the law? We are not coming with a police and criminal evidence bill. But it's good that people are aware. We'll see. This government will see whether we will come with a bill or not. But let's see what has happened in the past. On the 10th of April 2013, the Land Labour PMSD government had approved a cabinet, at the level of cabinet, for a bill to be circulated. I hope you do remember. I'm trying to refresh your memory. Yeah? Ah, you do remember. On Tuesday, the 16th of April 2013, at the sitting of the National Assembly, on the order paper, the Police and Criminal Evidence Bill, first reading. First reading, Mr. Speaker, sir. Very good. We congratulate this government. Then first reading. At the sitting of Tuesday, the 23rd of April 2013, the then Attorney General, Mr. Yatin Verma, gave notice of his intention not to move the second reading of the Police and Criminal Evidence Bill. And then, Mr. Speaker, sir, since then, 2013, what has happened? They couldn't give birth. They couldn't give birth. You what? Maybe leader of the opposition is still in your drawer, is still there. So this is, and they are giving lessons. They are giving lessons. Do this, do that. They have introduced a bill, first reading, and it has died. So you must be serious. But anyway, that doesn't mean to say what the opposition says is something else. To me, it's something else. What we need is to assume a responsibility and see to it. I'm not saying that everything is perfect, Mr. Speaker, sir. There is obviously room for improvement. There is always room for improvement. And we look at how, in what way we can make our institutions become more efficient. And then, of course, taking into account also the budget that we have, because the budget is not only for one institution, it is not only for another institution. It has to be distributed in such a way that each institution is able to perform in the most efficient and effective manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Thank you.
Motion.
Motion.